All of us are searching, knowingly or unknowingly, for enlightenment, truth, and harmony in our lives. This program, hosted by Dr. Gregory Penn, will help you aspire to a more fulfilling and rewarding life.
Well, here we are with Aspire Unplugged again. We're going to be talking about tools and students and their work. And I have with me my beloved Mitch, my director and producer and my best friend. So talk to me. What's going on?
Let's talk about tools that one can use
yeah.
on their spiritual path.
Well, I don't know.
All right.
Yeah,
So let's take a look at this clip from Passing Through the Fires.
Oh, my favorite.
Students come and they want to learn how to meditate. And we are under the idea in the beginning stages of our meditations that we're here to get our thoughts out of our mind. Students think that if they have no thoughts whatsoever, that they are meditating. That is not meditation. You'll never get your thoughts out of your mind at all. That's not what this work is about. It's more about your relationship with those thoughts. You're not living your life, you're living thoughts that are living you. They're not even your thoughts. They can be thoughts of a teacher, thoughts of a friend, thoughts of your mother and father, thoughts about what is right and wrong, good and bad. And before you know it, you're not living your life at all. In fact, most people are under the delusion that they're living their life until silence, real authentic silence, has touched our lives. Until we are willing to let life live us through silence. We're just going through the motions of our living. When we are doing meditation, we are simply beginning to look at our relationship with our own thoughts. We are beginning to understand what that relationship is really all about. We're beginning to see that our relationship with our thoughts and how we hold them, grab them, the ones that we cherish, the ones that we let go, how we have the stream of thought in our mind determines the quality of our life. Meditation is simply not being attached to any thought.
Wow. Easy to say.
That's easy for you to say, huh?
Yeah,
we did that.
We did.
Yeah. Well, it takes discipline and courage, and you have to be curious about what would it be like if I weren't a slave to my thoughts. Now, in your work, your creativity, things come to you, and they're not thoughts, they're impressions, things you, And when I was teaching formally, I would tell the congregation, if you are as passive towards your thoughts as you are what I'm trying to teach you, you'd be awakened by now. But they didn't do that. They like their thoughts. They amuse themselves through their thoughts. Their thoughts seem important because they're their thoughts. And it's like when I was a kid, I explained in the last show, are these the only thoughts I can have? Are there others? And you've got to be daring enough inside to want to experience what you've never experienced before. And go where no man has ever gone before, the Star Trek thing, but whatever that is. But you've got to want to see what it's like not to let your life be lived by your thoughts. So when Buddha said, you are what you think, all that you think makes your world, he was right. If you think or act with an impure mind, trouble will follow you. And that's why that happens. But an untroubled mind, as Buddha talked about, a mind no longer seeking to consider what is good and bad, right and wrong, is a no mind. And that's an untroubled mind, a pure mind, as he would call it. And that mind is, shall we say, serviced by impression. You get an impression. So when you're doing your work, something comes to you, an impression. Oh, we can do it this way. You've done a lot of Aspire TV programs with me that way. Oh, it could be done that we could go here, we could do this. Even this series that we're doing right now, it was based on your impression, not your thoughts. Now, your thoughts came rambling in to do the detail work. And if you weren't careful, you could have messed that up. But you didn't.
Well, is it true that, say, artists, great artists, they let stuff happen
They do.
for their greatest works?
They do.
And they're not forcing it.
That's
They're
right.
not pushing the river.
That's right. I used to know a guy that used to walk tightrope.
Yeah.
And he used to do it for a hobby. And he said, to keep my balance, I have to forget what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And I always liked that. So I would get on the wire with him. We were only like 3 feet above the ground. It was no big deal. And yeah, he was right. If you forget what you're doing, you can walk right across.
Wow.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
Let me ask you another question. If it's another way of dropping your thoughts or just not engaging with
Not
them.
engaging.
Not engaging.
Yeah, if I engage them through speculation, assumption, self-righteousness, things like that, it gets ugly. And then, then you find yourself in a full-on conversation with your mind. Who are you talking to? You're talking to, in my case, Gregory? Really?
It's like an echo chamber.
Yeah,
Right?
Yeah, he didn't know what he's talking about. He had no idea what he's talking about. Blah, 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 blah. So you really realize as you go along, I need to be occupied constantly. Constantly occupied. And if I'm not, then I'm bored, or I'll come up with a thought that is radical, and then try to do that radical thought.
Okay, so to help people, get to that point where they're able to not engage with their thoughts, tell me about some of the tools that you can help them with, or that the Tibetan pulsing and some of these other types of meditations.
I have given my students literally hundreds of meditations to do. And Tibetan pulsing is one of them. They're very powerful. They initiate consciousness. And if they listen to the tones, they're based on breath and tone. Breath and tone. And
What do you mean by tone?
I give them tones on the CDs for them to listen to that pulsate inside them. These tones are the makeup of consciousness. And they're also the makeup of the chakras that live inside of us. So they have this pulsation and this thing going on. And added to their breath work of breathing through chakras, they start, if they practice, not talking to their mind and not treating it like they're brushing their teeth. You know what I mean? Unconsciously. It could awaken in any one of them. That's the beauty of them. We did them in India, Tibetan pulsing, and they were wonderful.
Is it giving you something else to focus on that helps you clear your
No,
mind?
it's a methodology of how to live with a mind.
Okay.
It's a methodology of how to live with having a mind.
Okay.
It's a lifestyle too.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Tell me about some of the other ones.
Well, we're going to talk about catharsis now?
Yeah.
Okay. But before all of this can happen, a person has got to go and drain themselves a little bit of their anger. When I was teaching formally meditation with students, I'd ask them, between 1 and 10, 10 being the most, 1 being the least, how angry are you? If you think in terms of anger as your insecurity, your fears, your self-hatred, that kind of thing. And they would think for a few moments, they go, I'm about a 3 or a 2. And they were a 30 or a 40, So I developed these ways of catharting, learned them first of all in India, with Bhagwan. And he did dynamic meditation and Kundalini. Well, as we got older, we couldn't jump up and down and do all that because, we're old and our backs are. So I went to my friends who were in India who learned under Tibetan masters how to do Tibetan pulsing meditations and catharsis. So they did that, and we developed that, and we did that with the group. to lower their resistance. The mind is a slave to the emotions. Now, psychology would say that your mind came first and then your emotions, but I disagree. It's emotions first, then the mind. And because the body is such a brat, it wants everything it wants. It's totally conditioned, for what it wants. And it's geared towards survival. It's got DNA. It's ruthless. It's unkind. It's mean-spirited. And because there's no heart connected to the body, that DNA, a person can really struggle with just the simplest things of focus and concentration. Really struggle because they have no catharsis. When the body is replaced by the heart in meditation, bingo. Everything starts falling into line. And you start to move away from the body and the mind, and you go into something we call third person. First person, then second, and then all of a sudden, you're actually looking at yourself. Wow. Actually, and you see the scope of how your mind works. You see the gestalt of your mind and how it's interacting. You go, oh my. And you see, everybody has it. You see a form of your mental illness. We are all mentally ill, one way or another, as a human being. I am, everybody is. There is no such thing as a healthy human being, psychologically or emotionally. It's impossible, especially in this culture, I have found. You have to be away from this culture. You'd have to live alone. You'd have to live like a hermit. Right. That's not going to happen. So once you start to see all that, then your thoughts are replaced by these beautiful impressions. You get an impression. And an impression is like a picture, a portal into the infinite. And you can see through it, and things start opening up. And then, instead of there being problems, like Buddha said, a mind no longer seeking to consider what is good and bad, right and wrong, all you see is beauty. It's just beautiful. And then you don't let anything get in the way of that beauty. Well, like a thought. And the way you do that is you don't talk to your mind. I don't talk to Greg. It would be absolutely silly to talk to Greg.
Wow.
Greg is Greg. He wants to invade me. And he is constantly pounding on the door. But I don't open the door and answer
You
it.
don't let him out of the cage?
I don't open the
cage him.
door. I don't say, come on in and mess with my mind.
Okay.
Yeah, come on in.
Yeah.
Let's think about those people that betrayed you. Let's think about those people that hate you. Let's think about how we can get even. Let's think about what we want. Let's think about what we can get.
Right.
And let's think about those people that are terrible and how right we are and da-da-da-da.
Oh, when you put it like that, it's so much wasted effort.
Well, yeah. So you don't open the door.
Yeah.
I never open that door.
Wow.
But I still see things as they are. So I read the newspaper or whatever. I see what's going on. I'm aware of the human dilemma. I'm aware of prejudice and hatred and anger. And I can talk about it intelligently, but I don't let it in and let it formulate my viewpoint. Because Greg has his viewpoints, and then there is the other side of Siraj that has no viewpoint.
You see it all as playing out as a grand movie.
Yeah, it's all a movie. It's all delusion and illusion. Yeah. None of this, folks, is happening the way you and I may think it is. None of this. Even this program isn't happening the way you think it's happening. It isn't. And when you see that by having an impression, you realize, oh, this is so much more beautiful than what I could ever think.
Do you enjoy the movie? That you're able to see it for what it is? What's your opinion there?
I live by this phrase. Forgive him, he knows not what he does. That's what I live by. There are things in this world I do not like. wars, rumors of wars, hatred. I don't like the country we live in. I don't like what we, the people, have made of it. It's ruthless, it's self-righteous, it's bias. I don't do anything about it because I can't. I take it one person at a time. I'm not going to get involved.
You don't want to run for office?
I know. No, Marianne Williamson's tried to run for office. You remember that?
Oh, no.
Yeah, she's crazy. Now her whole message is political and we've got to do something. We don't have to do it. We can't do anything. Right. Here's the let go, that you and I were talking about kind of earlier. You got to let this thing go, this whole thing. It's going to do what it's going to do. The momentum is huge. The momentum is bigger than we are as people. And you only have one choice. You either transcend or not. Mm-hmm. And if you don't, you don't. Gore was right about everything he said in An Inconvenient Truth. Mm-hmm. He was in fact, he was not only right, he was conservative, about it. And I thought that was very smart. Mm-hmm. And I support him in what he said. But it's an inconvenience. And Americans think it's their right not to ever be inconvenienced. So when you're doing spiritual work, inner work, what he was talking about is what I'm talking about, and vice versa. He's talking about the weather, he's talking about environment, but he's more talking about what he calls morals. I would talk about it as awareness. I don't believe in morals. So he talked about it's our moral obligation to take care of it. No, it's not. It's seva to take care of the earth. It's my heart that takes care of if I don't have a heart, I can't take care of the earth. Mm-hmm. I've got to see it through those eyes. Mm-hmm. But we don't do that. Again, I know I sound pessimistic, but I'm a realist. Mm-hmm. I understand what we're up against. I really do. And you do too.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you see it like I do. It's awful.
Mm-hmm. Well, it all comes down to the end, and it all goes to heck in a handbag, as they say. We get another crack through our...
through our next life?
Through our next life, right?
Yeah, but do I really want to keep doing that?
Yeah.
That's what YOLOs think,
Right.
I'll get you'll find a YOLO out there. I believe in reincarnation, but I don't want to do it in this lifetime. I'll wait until the next one or the next one. And then pretty soon the karma's so heavy, you can't do it in any lifetime. Mm-hmm. And that's what we're seeing now in the Kali Yuga stage, right, where all these people that had that attitude have now incarnated here. I'll do it when I feel like it.
Is there a place where you can get beyond reincarnation?
You mean in... Yes,
yeah,
of course.
Yeah, tell me about that.
I don't know. I'm not there. But I've had dreams and visions of it, for sure.
Some celestial sphere someplace.
It is a place where... I'll keep it in my ballpark.
Okay.
A place where I am not. I don't have identity. I am not anything. I'm a no thing. And I am one with something that I can't be separated from and has never gone away from me either. But I now realize that in our world, you are a thing. You are a person. You want an object. The whole criteria of being here is to obtain something. In that world that I'm talking about, nothing to get. So Greg does not exist.
That's another scary part for people because they want to exist.
You correct. That was a greater truth than you might understand. That is so true. They will kill, lie, and cheat to be the person they are. They will. And they'll deny love. And, when you have a chance to really be... Well, here's a choice. Here's something to kind of think about. If you had the choice between doing love and dying for the sake of that love, or surviving and turning your back on that love and saying, I'll do it another time, what would you do? Because that's what we're all faced with. Mm-hmm. Am I willing to disappear into love? So I was on this television show years and years ago called There Is a Way. And it was in LA. And I was talking to the host, was grilling me. And it was really a wonderful show. And he said, well, talk to me about forgiveness and what would be a difficult thing to accept about what we're talking about. And I said, well, imagine this, that Adolf Hitler is sitting there in a chair in the last moments of his life, puts the gun to his head, and pulls the trigger. As the bullet is going down the barrel, just before it touches his temple, he realizes all that he's done and repents and wants forgiveness and is forgiven. The bullet blasts through the back of his head, but he's liberated before that bullet touched his skin. That's a hard one for people to think about,
Yeah.
but it's possible.
Why not? If it's all an illusion anyway, right?
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. I think that some of the bravest words were on the cross. Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. And in that agony, that physical agony, that is really interesting to me.
Mm-hmm.
That was in Ben-Hur.
Yeah. Yeah, I know.
And that's what changed him. He goes back to Miriam, his beloved, and he said, it's as though he took the sword out of my hand. And he said, forgive them. And she said, even then? And he said, yeah, even then. That, as a kid, I just went crazy. I burst into tears.
It makes so much sense. I mean, really, when you explain it like that, it makes sense.
It's so sad.
Ah.
We are such a pathetic. We just had, how did such great wealth make its home in such poverty? That's what Jesus said in the Gnostic's gospel. How did such great wealth make its home in such... That is the miracle, he said.
Yeah.
He was being sarcastic.
Right.
And that's my kind of...
He could have done stand-up.
Yeah, he could. Yeah.
Who knew?
He could have been. He was my kind of guy. But they all are. They all have their different ways of teaching.
Yeah.
That's why I don't believe in Christianity and Buddhism and Tao. I don't... Take the isms out.
Right.
And the anities.
Right.
And just leave it. When I was back at Unity, they had a motto, Unity, practical Christianity. There is nothing practical about Christianity. Nothing practical. Nothing. But when I was a kid, I thought, wow, that's a pretty neat idea. But then when you start to live it, you find out it isn't practical at all. You have to go way out of your way to do it. Your human way.
Yeah. All right. So, on the YouTube channel, the Aspire YouTube channel,
Yeah.
and on your website,
Yeah.
these tools exist. They're on there that people can go and find, and they can make use of them right now if they want to, right?
Yes, they can get the meditations that I speak of. There's blogs, there are commentaries. And these commentaries are very, very important. They're based in the things that teachers won't tell their students because they want a following, of which I do not care for. If you come, you come.
So you're open to people trying to find you and maybe attending a retreat or something like that. And
If they,
let them
but
have
I
a crack
vet
at it.
them. I admit I vet them.
Okay.
I have to talk to them. I have to see where they're at. I don't want a looky-loo in there.
Oh, and it's a disruption to your other students.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And they deserve the ebb and flow that they've worked so hard on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for that insight.
My honor.
All right, and we're going to get a little bit more into it and what the dynamic is of the group activities during a retreat or a workshop in our next episode.
And how it helps them.
Yep.
Yeah. And the therapy behind it. Okay.
All right. Thank you, and we'll see you next time, too.